He still plays with this kind of inventiveness where he's always looking to play forward. He's always trying to be progressive, playing risky passes but not losing the ball very often. So it's really refreshing to see him play. And he might be, so he's 18 now, and he might be at the point in his development where it's too late to coach out some of these tendencies of playing forward so often and not adopting the kind of English way of being more conservative in possession, which I think is a really good thing for him, because I think he will keep that inventiveness and that ingenuity in his game.
Jay here, Stretford Paddock. This is Academy Review. Joining me as always is Finn, otherwise known as Academy Scoop. Finn, thanks for coming back on the channel. How are we doing?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm doing well.
Did you get the clothes? We saw you bumped into you the other day. I mean, Joe, he's out shopping, weren't you, for clothes?
Yeah, I realised I got no summer clothes. So
was it a bit of retail therapy after the season we're having?
Well, it's the only way you can kind of heal yourself after watching Manchester United. So.
Yeah, well, usually you're here to cheer us up after what's been most weekends or most Mondays when me and you chat, it's like, it's been a bad weekend for the first team. Yeah. Let's get Finn in. Cheer us up about the academy.
I'm not sure how much longer I can do it, Jay.
We're relying on you, bro. Seriously, I need you for my mental health. What do you want to talk about today?
Let's get started with the 21s.
Okay, good stuff.
That's the positive storyline that I can bring to you today. So United were hosting Everton at Lee Sports Village in the PL2 on Friday. For a little bit of background on this competition, as of last season they brought in a new format change. So now the top 16 clubs at the end of the season go into a playoff. So this was the round of 16. United finished 5th, so we've had a pretty good season in the PL2, all things considered. And Everton were 12th, so United went into it as pretty strong favourites, although they had a nightmare start because Everton within 33 seconds had taken the lead.
Bloody hell. 33 seconds?
33 seconds, yeah. Braden Graham for them drove the ball through the midfield, passed it over to Martin Sharif, who finished really, really well, to be fair, from about 25 yards out with his left foot. Really nice strike, and not much that Eli Harrison could do about it. And yeah, United were off to a pretty slow start, but Ethan Wheatley, who's returned from his loan from Walsall, he really, really struggled to get minutes and game time there. So the club have requested that he comes back and gets some minutes. He levelled things up for United. It was a nice ball out from Eli Harrison into the final third. Wheatley exchanged a little 1-2 with Sam Murray, and then Wheatley rounded the goalkeeper, finished really nicely. Really high quality goal, to be fair, to draw things level. But in the first half, Everton took the lead again. We were asleep at the back post from a corner, and they were able to nick a cheap one. The second half was all about Sekou Kone, though.
Yes,
that's he's been really special in a few of these under-21 performances, and I've said it a few times. He can drift in some games where he doesn't necessarily stamp his authority on them throughout a whole 90, but when he gets going, he's really impressive, and he certainly grew into the second half for this one. One of the other things I've said about him is that he's not been brought up in the English football system. Obviously developed in Mali, never done any formal gym work, and in the systems that he's been developed in, it's a lot more about your individual expression and less emphasis on coaching and structures and things like that. So he still plays with this kind of inventiveness where he's always looking to play forward. He's always trying to be progressive, playing risky passes but not losing the ball very often. So it's really refreshing to see him play, and that was the case for his assist to Tyler Fletcher in the second half. Picked up the ball in the middle, drove forward, played a nice vertical ball into Tyler Fletcher on the edge of the box. Tyler Fletcher took the ball beautifully on the half turn, really, really clean, and finished well with his right foot. So much class in that goal between those two players who have both been fantastic recently for United's under-21s. Tyler Fletcher's really come into his own, playing quite deep, but he actually gets in a lot of advanced positions, so he can really have an impact from anywhere on the pitch. But yeah, United took the lead 3-2 in the second half, and then it was just the most outstanding strike from Sekou Kone to kind of close things off for United. The ball fell loose in the middle, stepped up to it and just hit it from probably about 35 yards out. smacked it kind of top left corner. It might have taken a little bit of a deflection, but doesn't really matter.
No.
We take those. Really, really beautiful goal. And you can tell by that point in the game he was playing with a lot of confidence, and he's really got a lot of self-belief and likes to do things his way. I saw someone on Twitter make a really good point that he might be, so he's 18 now, and he might be at the point in his development where it's too late to coach out some of these tendencies of playing forward so often and not adopting the kind of English way of being more conservative in possession, which I think is a really good thing for him, because I think he will keep that inventiveness and that ingenuity in his game, which is rare, and it brings something unique to United. So really, really positive game from him. I'd also mention Jack Morehouse.
You love for Jack Morehouse, don't you? And rightly so, from what I gather.
Yeah, he's one of those players I've said a few times now. He could and should be getting minutes in the first team at some point before the end of the season. Brings something really unique himself in terms of his ball carrying. Just so much athleticism and really, really powerful runner on the ball. Adds so much quality in the final third and is quite a good fit for those wide number 10 positions in my opinion for Amorim. So we've seen him on the bench, we've seen him in training a lot. I think again it would be a good time for him to take that next step and get a debut. So United progress to the next round. They'll face West Ham, who beat Sunderland 3-1 in their round of 16 game. Positive story for the under-21s, who still have a chance at silverware this season.
Good to hear. I want to ask you a little bit about Sekou Kone, because obviously when he came into the club earlier on in the season, people were looking at him and go, okay, he's only a youngster, but could he have any sort of impact in his first team, or how long is it going to take before he does have an impact on the first team? Obviously in a position that we do need someone in. How far away do you think he is from... Two questions. How far do you think he is away from the first team, and what do you think he could bring to the first team when he gets there?
Yeah, I'd still advocate for some patience with him, because like I've said, he's not fully stamping his authority on these games where he's ever present for a whole 90 minutes. Usually he's kind of in and out. But again, when he does get on the ball and when he does get involved, he's so positive and brings so much quality. So I'd say he's still, probably a good few months away from being able to properly contribute to the first team. Maybe the club will consider sending him out on loan. Maybe he could benefit from a season in League One, or maybe even the Championship. Or maybe he's deemed good enough to play a role next season. We'll have to see. Probably during pre-season he'll get a fair few minutes. But I'd say there are a couple others who are probably more ready right now to contribute for the first team. That doesn't necessarily indicate their ceiling is higher than his, because I think I see a lot of qualities in him that mean he could have a really, really impressive ceiling in terms of his long-term potential. But yeah, I'd still say we should have a little bit of patience in terms of bringing him into the first team. At the same time, I don't think a few minutes off the bench here and there would hurt him at this stage.
No, I get what you mean about patience. It's easy as well to get carried away, especially when you see goals like he scored the other night against Everton. When he comes into this team, where does he fit in? What was he bringing to it, do you feel? Yeah,
well, Amorim plays obviously the two in midfield, requires a lot of kind of ground coverage and mobility. Both the midfielders need to be able to get around the pitch, cover ground, and really get stuck into their duels and their tackles, which is something Sekou Kone does really well. At the moment, he's still a little bit lightweight physically, but I've seen him throughout the season growing in that area. He gets pushed off the ball less, and he can be a real nuisance actually in some of his duels. Pushing much stronger and bigger players off the ball. So that's something that he brings in terms of his kind of physical presence and that athleticism to get around the pitch. And the progression from deep areas is really impressive with him. Again, I think something else that we are lacking a little bit. In many of our games, we've had basically Harry Maguire and Casemiro in possession playing as a pivot, which neither of them are that comfortable taking the ball on the half turn and evading pressure in small spaces. This is something Sekou Kone is really good at. His first touch is quite impressive. Sometimes it looks like he lacks control in his first touch because it can be quite explosive, but it is actually quite calculated because he's taking the ball away from pressure. It's always in the right direction. And that's something he offers in terms of receiving in deep areas. But yeah, a lot of quality on the ball, got an expansive passing range. So yeah, he could bring a lot to Amorim's first team if and when he is ready to contribute, but that could be a little bit down the line from now.
I think it's vital in it. We have to be careful with these younger players, these youngsters, because as a fan, it's always like, oh yeah, kids, get the youngsters in. They'll bring that energy. They'll bring something we can all rally behind and get behind in the team. And we've seen so many young players do well. I mean, it's part of United's DNA in it, bringing through academy players. Even this season, you look at Harry Amas, of course, Fredrickson the other week, who did very well, didn't it? So I get it. I get that sort of desire to see these youngsters, but you have to look after them properly. You don't want to burn them out or get them set on a sort of their first foray into the first team is a bad one or a bad experience. It has to be the right situation as well. And when United are sat in the bottom half of the table and each game's a bit of a struggle, it's not ideal, especially as you've pointed out. Look, there's quality there, but just there's still areas of the game he needs to work on. And obviously, as a young player, you don't work on those areas of the game in the first team. You do it in the under 21. So
yeah, and I get the feeling from Amorim that he has a good feel for when players are ready to really contribute. You know, he's shown with some of these players like Aiden Heaven when he was fit that if he thinks they're ready, then he will throw them in and he will give them significant minutes. He's not afraid to do that, but he's also going to be calculated and measured about when he decides to integrate the young players. So yeah, I'm positive about the direction of youth integration.
Just on that front as well, talking about youth integration, we saw at the weekend Chido had another cameo, a player you've spoken about extensively on this channel. I know you've been covering it since before he arrived from Arsenal. What have you made of his appearances so far this season, including the one at the Vitality Stadium? Yeah,
for me, he is one of those players that goes into the category of actually being ready now.
Yeah.
Not necessarily to be starting every game for United, but for significant minutes. And I really don't think it would hurt at this point to give him a start in the Premier League. I think in the cameos that he's had off the bench, he's looked positive. He's got into good positions, uses his body well, obviously moves really well. He's got quite nimble feet for a kid his size. But I think he hasn't quite grown into the games enough because he's usually only getting 15, 20 minutes, which sometimes for a striker, you need just 20 minutes to get a feel for the game.
Do you remember the Fulham game, the FA Cup, where he came on? And I remember I was getting really frustrated, not with him, but he didn't, for the first 10 minutes, he didn't see the ball.
Yeah.
Like, the ball was just getting hoofed up in his general direction. No one was actually like giving him a decent ball. And then he got a couple of opportunities, made the most of them, did really well. But like you said, he needed those 10, 15 minutes just to get a touch almost.
Exactly. So that's why I think what we need to see now, the next step is him getting either, a whole 45 minutes, maybe take Højlund off at half time, save him for the Europa League, and or maybe start him in one of these games because, don't want to go too negative on Højlund, but in a lot of these games, Chido's coming on and doing everything that Højlund has done and more in a limited amount of minutes.
Yeah.
And even outside of scoring goals, just looks more likely to score.
Yeah.
Getting on the ball in the right positions and making the right runs, finding space at the right moments. So I'd say for him, it is time to be getting some significant minutes ahead of what could be, a positive next season for him, depending on what we do in the window.
It's a weird one for Amorim, isn't it, with Højlund, because obviously he did well at the weekend, he got his goal and he needed it. But you feel like, because he's our only option in Europa, you have to sort of show that you're backing him, give him the confidence, give him the minutes he needs, but also we don't want him to get injured. So I like your idea of maybe, giving Højlund 45 in between the two Athletic Club games, and perhaps Chido comes in then. Obviously, it could all change if we get knocked out of Europe or if it's just the league. Then I think you may as well give Chido a start if that's the situation. But there's a way of having a happy medium there.
I think especially if you kind of pre-plan, say, a half-time substitution.
Yeah,
because then it's not. Well, you're not performing, so we're going to bring someone else in. It's like, right, I'm telling you now, at half-time, we're going to give this kid some minutes, see what he's about. And then I think you keep everyone happy.
That would be I think that's a good idea going into the second leg, just to manage Højlund's minutes a little bit and give Chido that opportunity.
Yeah, I'd like to see something like that.
Yeah, he could do. I think you're right. He could do a little bit more than these cameos because he's showing us bits and pieces in it, but he needs a little bit more time. Any more?
Yeah, the under-18s we'll just touch on briefly.
Yeah.
their game against Everton as well wasn't broadcast anywhere.
Obviously, why
really
would anyone want to watch talented youngsters play football? That'd be that'd be insane, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'm really hoping that next season we see an improvement in that area. I understand the games where the Premier League forbids clubs from showing it because it clashes with the game. That's something for the Premier League to deal with. Nothing United can do about that. But there are still some games where United can broadcast it legally and just.
What's the thinking? What's the rationale behind that?
Early in the season, I was told that it was a resource issue. So, with all the cuts throughout the different departments, they're just not able to allocate the resources necessary to be broadcasting these games live. So obviously, I direct the anger at those making the decisions above MUTV, because from what I've heard, there's little that they can do about that situation.
It's truly really ridiculous.
Yeah,
let's have it right. Like, you haven't got the resources to show the highlights from the academy games at Manchester United Football Club. Mm-hmm. What are you doing?
Yeah,
like, someone needs to have a look at that. I know there's lots of cuts and everything going on, and that's not the only department or the only area where there's resources aren't available because of what's going on. So I'm not just singling them out, but
it's such an important one.
Yeah, like, let the fans see some of these younger players, and it benefits everyone. If you're seeing some of these talented youngsters, the highlights from you, getting used to them, you're saying, oh, this is a player that I've seen online or seen on MUTV or whatever, it just gives you that little bit more, almost like a vested interest in them. You know who they are, and when they are getting into the first team, you've got a little bit about you to get behind them, a little bit extra or whatever. Yeah. It just helps everyone. Yeah. It just, for me, it's just such short-sightedness. Sorry, Finn.
No, not at all. It's really frustrating. So, yeah, hopefully we see that improve next season. It was an 8-goal thriller.
Love that. Well, depends.
Well, because it ended 4-4. So
okay, well, we can
1 point.
4-4 against Everton. That's
Everton.
Giving me PTSD from 2013. That 2012.
This escapes my memory.
Right. Well, I'll not to digress too much, 7. But typical YouTuber. Oh, it was only 7. I can't remember. Basically, Everton came to Old Trafford, and if we won, there was a good chance we were going to win the title, and we were 4-2 up, and we drew 4-4. And then a week later, we went to the Etihad and we lost 1-0, and then City won the league with that Aguero goal.
Speaking of, this draw means that City win the league.
Oh, see,
so
4-4 against Everton. Why? It had to be, didn't it? Yeah. So go on, tell us a little bit about the game.
Yeah. So because it wasn't broadcast, all I can tell you really is the goal scorers.
That's enough. That's good enough for me.
Yeah, Jim Thwaites with another perfect free kick, apparently, from just on the edge of the box.
Do you feel like he's put the Villa game behind him now, Jim Thwaites?
I think so. I think he's still a first-year scholar.
Yeah.
It would have
and he should, by the way. I'm not criticising him, or I'm just saying, like, him. So sometimes with a young player, when you've had not had the best of times, it can get in your head a little bit.
Yeah, it can be a real hit to your confidence.
Yeah.
But no, he seems to be doing really well. We know how dangerous he is from set pieces. That's kind of his specialism. He's so reliable from free kicks, and he scored another one that was reportedly unsavable. Victor Musa also chipped in with a first half goal, and Biancheri as well with a kind of poacher's goal, a nice tap in. But Everton hit back with a late kind of quick fire double in the second half, so it was 4-3 to them. And Shea Lacey, who had come on in the first half for Jacob Devaney, who came off injured. Lacey went on a kind of slaloming run in the final third, got into a nice position and finished past the keeper to level things up for United in the 96th minute.
Shades of what was going on at Bournemouth, really, that, isn't it? Wasn't that a 96th minute equaliser?
Yeah. Kind of bittersweet. Obviously, a nice-ish ending to that game, but means that United can no longer mathematically win the title. So no more silverware on the table for the 18s this season, which is a shame, but it's not the be-all and end-all. Obviously, the main focus is player development. So I think loads of positives to take from the season. But yeah, the players will be a little bit disappointed because there was a point earlier in the season, I think we'd gone maybe 15 or 16 games in a row that we won, and it looked like we were going to absolutely walk the league, and then City have just gone on this incredible run. We've dropped the ball a little bit, and so out of reach for this season. But
I mean, it is a learning curve. I don't want to sort of drag out the cliches, but it's good to see that Shea Lacey's getting football, getting minutes, hopefully putting those injury issues he's had behind him. Such a talented youngster. You've waxed lyrical about him on this channel many a time, and rightly so. He's that player in it that everyone sort of knows. Yeah. Even if you're a layman like me, you've heard of Shea Lacey, you've seen clips of him, you know what he's about, you know how good he is. So it's good to see him still sort of getting minutes, and you know the likes of Thwaite still doing what he does best. Absolutely. There's lots of reasons to be optimistic going into next season as well. So definitely, I hope the youngsters don't sort of beat them up too much about what's going on at Manchester City. No one cares about City anyway. Do you know what I mean? They can win whatever. It doesn't even count. Finn, as calls you Shay then. Finn, always a pleasure. You're going to be on the channel a little bit more as well in the coming weeks, aren't you? Not just the Academy Review, but you're going to be joining us on watch-alongs and podcasts and stuff like that. So make sure, if you're not doing so already, you follow Finn, Academy Scoop, on X or Twitter, as I still call it. That's been Finn. I've been Jay. Yeah, it's still swearing it. Come on, let's have it right. This has been Academy Review. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.